Now, plate handling again. Your raw plates, you want to measure the thickness. Right? Confirm it every now and then. But when you measure it, in order to take care of it, you measure it with the contact sheet in place. Because if the contact sheet is not in place, you can damage or squeeze that soft. So by having that contact sheet on there, it distributes the force, and now you do not damage it and make an impression with the foot of the caliper that you're measuring with. Temperature. Your raw plates, you do not want to store them out in the sun or in the heat, or wherever. You want to have a relatively room temperature kind of environment, somewhere in that range. You don't want it to get too hot or too cold. Stacking them, there's a limit to how high you can stack your raw plates and all that, and you want to observe that. You want, when you're handling your plate and you take it out of the box because you're now going to process it, you want to do that under dark conditions or conditions where even if it's lighted, it does not expose the plate inadvertently. Raw plates have a shelf life, so you want to do first in, first out. Cutting a raw plate, which you may have to do, especially narrow web folks, if you can't gang up enough images on a plate to always use it, and you need to use a portion of it, you'll want to cut it. You want to cut it through the back of the plate. You want to make a nice rapid stroke, and you don't want to be pressing into that plate when you're cutting it with your finger because you'll deform it. Now you have a process plate. We're concerned with storing, mounting, when it's running, demounting, cleaning, moving, cleaning again. So when we're storing a process plate, let's see. Yeah, I'll just elaborate on it. You can store the process plates flat, but what happens is storage can become a concern because then you're storing, some people stack them up, and now if you want these plates down here, you have to take all these plates out, and you still can have too much pressure. So vertical is okay, as long as you have a nice rigid structure that keeps the plates and don't allow them to collapse when you're storing them. And it's also nice for, I know I wrote some, I actually elaborated on this further, so I'm going to just go past that. Let me go past this because I did that. But we want to be careful when we're storing them, when we're mounting the plates, when we're running them, when we're demounting them, when we're cleaning them, when we're removing them from the cylinder, and when we're cleaning them, again, if we handle them, we want to give a nice fine wipe. Okay? And when we wipe, when we clean plates, again, we need to use a solution that is compatible with the ink that we're trying to clean, but is not incompatible with the plate that we're trying to clean. So we have to be careful on two fronts. When we expect a plate where we're measuring its thickness, we're measuring its thickness in various places and seeing how uniform it is. So we'll make measurements with a plate micrometer in various places. Now, a plate micrometer you have a table. I'll just make it easy. Not gotta be 3D. Okay, we have a table. And then we have a deep throat. And then here we have a dial indicator or a micrometer, right? And so, because of this deep throat, we can slide the plate into there and measure deeply. So we can take a plate. If you use a little micrometer, you can only go around the perimeter of the plate. But with this deep throat, you can measure within the plate. Okay, so these are special plate micrometers that are available in the market. You want an accuracy of plus or minus 0.01 mm. You want to have a clean base because you don't want dust or anything like that to affect the measurement. You want to have the foot, the bottom of the little foot that comes down onto the surface of the plate, you want that to be clean. And you want it to be broad. You know, some micrometers are just little like this because you're measuring steel, nothing's going to happen. But with a Flexo plate, especially a raw one, you know, that little diameter that can impress into it. And if you're measuring a process plate, if you have this a fine little peg of steel coming down onto a process plate, it might press down too hard. But by having that foot, it distributes the force, and it's going to stop right at the surface of the plate, giving you a more accurate reading. You want to have a clean workstation. You don't want your plate to inadvertently be deposited on top of contaminants or steel filings or anything like that. And you want that caliper to be of relatively low pressure, again, so it doesn't compress your plate when you're doing the measuring and give you a false reading. Now, I mentioned brands here because they're about the only ones and they're universally known, but in the workflow, because of the expense of these devices, very often we're very careful about the front end pre-press. We're very careful about the film, and we measure it and we do all these things. We're very careful about the floor height and this, that, and the other, and all these other. But one thing we leave out when we're doing halftones or four-color process printing is we don't accurately measure the dots from one to the other. They don't have to have a specific value, but once we have a value for a product and we say, okay, we made the ABC label, and when we measure it, this patch right here measures this. Well, when we process that plate again before it runs to the press, we can, as a control, measure that again and ensure that we're not going and varying. But these things cost thousands of dollars, and not a lot, you know, unless you're doing four-color process. And even when you do, a lot of people bypass that as if it's not important. But it leaves a mystery. If you now take those plates to the press and you see that your tone is off and it looks like your cyan, you know, everything is correct and your density is right, but you're too blue now because your cyan dots are too big, you don't necessarily know if your operator has over-impressed or if you actually did something in the process where those dots actually were larger. And because we didn't use a device like these, we don't know that. It's a mystery. So these Betaflex, Betaflex and all this, they're very basically the same. And as a matter of fact, these two are the same, except some of the software is in there is different. Now, storing used plates. Okay, so here I am, I'm an operator, and I have a 10-color job on 50-inch W&H, no flex. I've been running that thing at 800 feet per minute, about 1,000 feet per minute, and shut down. And now I take my sleeves out of the press. When the machine was running, if I said, you know what, that red plate, this is its last job, it's done. That last plate, that red plate, I don't want it anymore. The other ones are okay. I'm not going to allow that to go back in and then to accidentally come back out. So I will remove that plate and destroy it, or follow protocol, because generally there's going to be a protocol. Or whoever's demounting that plate, I'm going to advise, hey Bob, that plate needs to be processed as a worn plate, right? That could be Bob just cuts it and throws it away, or that could be that you follow a certain protocol. But the operator is the first line of defense against that plate coming back to me. So he's going to report to somebody that he can mark on the plate, bad, with a magic marker. You want those plates to be cleaned immediately. You don't want the ink sitting on there. You want them to be cleaned nicely. Whoever does that. You want to use a compatible cleaner that's not going to harm it. When you remove the plates, you want to be very careful. You want to pull smoothly. You don't want to snatch. You don't want to create kinks. And that can be difficult. And we talk about mounting tape tomorrow we'll talk about some adhesive properties that can help or hurt us. You want to dispose of, obviously, bad plates, as I said. Clean the remainder carefully and well. Re-inspect them before storing, because now you've handled the plate. The operator said they're good, came to you, let's say that's how your workflow, you clean the plates, you may have knocked some dots off by mistake. So now, after the plates are totally clean, before we store those plates, we're going to do another inspection. Okay, we're going to have another good look at it. Not a full-blown inspection necessarily, but we want to make sure it looks good. Okay? And you want to separate them usually with cover sheets. That very same cover sheet material that comes with the plates. A lot of folks out there use them, and is that what you guys recommend? To use the cover sheets to cover plates as we store them?
Yep.
Yeah, right? So don't throw away the cover sheet that comes with the plate, because when those, you're going to want to use them to separate plates when you put them in storage. Okay? So now, storing flat. Horizontal is better for the plates. There's no chance of it coming like this. So you have a flat plate, gravity is your friend. Here's the plate, gravity, nothing's going to happen to that plate. Okay? Now, vertical, a lot of people have hanging wraps where you have a hook and you have either a polymer pouch or something. That's done. But you have to be careful, because if the material is flexible and you have the plate in there, the plate might bunch up or something like that. So a lot of folks use cardboard. Okay, the cardboard will not allow the plate to open up or something like that. It's pretty rigid. It might compress the plates a little bit and help them be, help keep them from deforming. And whether they're suspended or slid along on a shelf, I find that vertical is the best for compact storage. Okay, because as I told you before, you don't want to make a stack of plates like this. You can't do that, and you can't get to the bottom. So flat has its limitations. You're going to have a lot of flat plates all over the place. Vertical is the most efficient, space saving. Now there's also tubes where you may have a cardboard tube, and you know how plates can persist to try to pop up? Well, you can store the plates inside that tube, and now it stays in a curled state, helping you ever so slightly to reduce plate lift. But the challenge with that is the greatest waste of space. So you have to factor that in. Do you have the space? Do you not have so many plates? Tubes, while they give you that pre-curling feature, you got a lot of air here, and when you have tubes next to each other, or stacked on top of each other, however that may be, there's air everywhere. There's only so many tubes you can put. So tubes occupy a tremendous amount of space. And then you can store it on the cylinder. You don't need the cylinder. You're going to run that job again. It's mounted. That's lovely. Okay, you can do that. So what you want to do if you do that, you go through the whole cleaning and inspecting and all of that. And you make sure that the mounting tape is still good. Okay? And then you take about a 2 mil black poly, about 2 inches wide. Do you use inches? Oh, yeah, that's great. I love India. And Africa is all metric. And you wrap it around the cylinder in a spiral. Not too hard, because I've actually seen damage. But by it being black and you wrapping that plastic around it, you're blocking out ozone, you're blocking out UV radiation, both of which are bad for a plate, and over time they'll crack them and create other problems. You're helping the ends stay down, they're not free to just pop up over time. You're protecting them from dust. So if you store it on the cylinder, that's fine, but you want to make sure that you wrap it. Okay? And then, in all cases, you re-inspect before reuse. When that thing comes out, you're going to take a look at it and make sure it's right before it goes back to the press. Because time lost is never recovered. It's gone forever.